So welcome everyone to the School of Graduate Studies and International Student Services January 2020 International Graduate Student Welcome Webinar. I know it's a really long title. We're really excited to have you join us here today. I see from the poll results that it looks like we may have one person that's already arrived in Hamilton, but everybody else you're joining us from maybe your home countries, which is great. So welcome. Thank you for taking the time to join us. And it looks like absolutely everybody, this will be their first time studying in Canada. So that's also really exciting for us. The purpose of this webinar is really to welcome you to McMaster, welcome you to Canada, and to answer any questions that you may have before you arrive. To sort of some housekeeping items, we do encourage this to be an interactive session. So you will see on the little toolbar, there's a Q&A tab. So we would encourage you to use the Q&A tab to ask any questions that you might have. And we've got a few panelists joining us today. So we are going to start with some introductions. So I can start with myself. So my name is Andrew Staples, and I am the Student Success Coach for international students. Really, I'm here to help you with your transition to Canada, transition to Hamilton, and any questions that you might have along the way. And next, I'll introduce Francesca. Oh, Francesca, we can't hear you.
Okay. Now you can hear me, right? Sorry for that. Okay, my name is Francesca, and again, welcome to McMaster. We're looking forward to having you in January, and I'm your coordinator for international graduate students. So anything you may need, I'm at Gilmore Hall 212. You'll soon know where that is, and you can contact me by email or just come by.
Okay, great. And Anna, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Anna Pereira, and I'm the program coordinator for international students. I do things like the UHIP plan that you'll soon learn about and love or hate. Also, I take care of a lot of programming for you, so great events, great time to meet people, to socialize, and lots of important information sessions as well.
Okay, great. And we've got special guests joining us as well. JC, if you'd like to introduce yourself too.
Hi, everybody. My name is JC. I'm a PhD student in physics. So I started here 4 years ago now. I'm from France originally. And I'm also the co-president of IGSA, the International Graduate Student Association. So we do a lot of events, information sessions. So same, like if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us.
Okay, great, thanks. So as we sort of mentioned, that there is a student success support team here to help you. So if you did need to get in touch with Francesca, myself, or Anna, you've got our contact information here. And we do also have an immigration and mobility advisor. She actually just had a baby a couple of days ago, so she couldn't join us, but we will be having an advisor on campus shortly, so we're just in that process of finding a replacement for her. Okay, and next I think I'm going to pass it over to Francesca.
Okay, so basically we put together this webinar to try to offer some information that may help you while you're getting ready to travel to Canada and then getting settled in Hamilton. I just want to make a note that we'll try to answer all of your questions and that we won't be answering any questions program related. If your questions are very specific related to your grad program, they should be directed to your department, since there are about 120, 130 grad programs, so we don't have the specifics. So any general questions, please feel welcome to send them over. All right, can we take a look at the next slide? Thanks. Okay, so all of you should have received an email to download the Eyesynth app. We've put together some very important information for you there that you can have as soon as you download it. You can have access to it. There is a section for important dates, and then a lot of the topics that we will be discussing today, they're also there. So if you did not receive this email, please send through the chat or questions, just send me a note, say that you haven't received it, and send me your email address, and we will make sure you get it. It should have arrived to the email that you used to apply to McMaster. That's where you should be looking for it. All right, so we're gonna go quickly over a couple of things that you should bring to the airport when you travel. And of course, you should bring your valid passport or travel document. You should also remember to bring your letter of introduction that the visa office sent to you when they approved your study permit, and a copy of your valid letter of acceptance from McMaster University. Prove that you have enough funds to support yourself during your stay in Canada, and letters of reference or any other documents that the visa office may have told you to bring. And since you're an international student, you will also need to enter Canada in either an ETA or a temporary resident visa. And you would know this by now. It's one or the other. If you have a valid ETA, it will be linked to the passport you used to apply for your study permit. And just make sure to carry all these items with you. Don't put them in your luggage that you're going to check in. Just make sure you have them with you, because you will need to present these when you arrive in Canada before you get your luggage. And also, again, please include, anything that's valuable, your cash, your traveler's check, all of that, include it with you, and anything that you will need during while you're on the plane or as soon as you arrive. If you have some immigration-related questions, we won't be able to answer those during this webinar, again, because we don't have our immigration mobility advisor with us. However, I just wanted to take a moment to mention that you need to make sure that your study permit is valid all throughout your studies. So if it will expire sometime during your studies, make sure to request an extension beforehand, way beforehand. Just you could either find this information about this on the government website, and also you may find it in the International Student Services website. Okay, let's talk a little bit about once you're here. So if you're coming through Toronto Pearson Airport, there will be a Destination Ontario booth from December 23rd till January 5th. And they're going to be there from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. I hear this year they're having a photo booth, and it's going to be really fun. So if you'd like to come by and visit them when you arrive, they're going to be in Airport Terminal 1 and 3 for international arrivals. And they have some information on McMaster and other schools, and they also have information about Ontario. So if you have any questions about cell phones or transportation, or mostly about anything, they will be able to get you some help there, or at least guide you to the right place. And you can find more information about them on their website, airportwelcomedesk.com. Transportation. I think now you should be looking at options in terms of when you arrive to the airport, how are you going to get to your final destination? So we've included a couple of options in this presentation, and we will be emailing you this presentation later on, and the link to this webinar since we're recording it, so you will have it with you. This information is also in the Eyesynth app, so please take a look at it and have some options available. You could either, depending on where you're staying in Hamilton, you may want to take the GO bus. And again, the Destination Ontario booth will have information on this, but you can also find it online. And there's the approximate cost for the GO bus, around $12.70. Make sure that, just note, that depending on where you get off, you may need to take an Uber or take a taxi or walk to get to your final destination. And it is quite cold right now, and it will be in January, so just plan accordingly. And again, you could always also take an Uber, a taxi, just make sure, or Airways Transit, just make sure you look at the options, the time that it takes to get where you're going, and the prices for it.
Okay, great. Thanks very much, Francesca. So as Francesca mentioned, if you're arriving in end of December or early January, this might be your first Canadian winter. And yes, the stereotypes are true. It could be very, very cold. For example, this morning, I think it was about -10 when we woke up. So it is chilly. And so that's just something that you need to be aware of. So depending on where you're coming from, you might be coming from a climate that is a lot warmer and you've never sort of experienced this kind of weather. It will be important that when you are traveling, that you do have appropriate clothing to make sure, to get you from the airport, to the bus, and then from the bus to your housing or accommodation. But once you're here, keep in mind that you can always buy appropriate winter clothes upon your arrival. This might be a bit more advantageous for you because maybe what you have, depending on where you're from, as a winter jacket might only be a fall or spring jacket for here. Also, depending on what the weather's like when you arrive, just be very cautious when you're walking. There could be snow on the ground, there could be ice on the sidewalks. So just be very cautious until you sort of are able to sort of navigate how to deal with sort of the elements here. Another thing that some students are a bit surprised by is that because in Canada we're more of a northern country, our daylight hours are actually a lot shorter in the winter. So right now I think sunrise is maybe around 7:30, 7:45, and sunset's around 4:30, 4:45. So daylight hours are quite limited, but in the summer it's really great because the sun is up till about 9 p.m. So that's just another thing to be aware of. And one thing that we've heard that surprised a lot of students is that many stores in Hamilton aren't open late. And so just keep that in mind, if you're looking to get something after 5 or 6 p.m., some things might be closed by then. Speaking of closures, McMaster itself will be closed sort of over the winter holidays. So the campus itself is going to be closed on December 24th, and it's not going to reopen till January 2nd. So if you are arriving between those dates, just keep in mind, you could come and sort of walk around campus, but all of the buildings are going to be closed and none of the services will be available. So if you do have any questions, make sure that you connect with us through email, either before the 24th, or just know that you're not going to get a response until after the 2nd of January. Depending on when you do arrive in Canada, just keep in mind that December 25th and the 26th and January 1st are holidays. So most stores and restaurants might be closed. If you are flying in on January 1st or December 25th, that there will be a few places that you can get food, but a lot of places will be closed during that time. Also during these dates, transit will be running, but it might be on a more limited service. Another thing that we want to remind you is that we do have our largest intake at McMaster in September. So some students who arrive in January, they are new, but everyone else at campus is sort of in a routine, and maybe some of the large welcoming activities that you might anticipate might not be as present. JC, I think, is going to talk a little bit more about some of the events and things that are coming up. But just so you know that the January intake is quite small. And so because of that, we really do encourage you to ask a lot of questions, because a lot of people might not assume that you're brand new to McMaster or brand new to Canada. So do make sure that you take sort of that extra step to get involved, really enjoy your experience here, and make sure that, you know, you just, if you're not sure what to do, just identify, hey, I'm new at McMaster, just started in January, so people will be able to help you out. And that could be for simple things like directions around campus, or if you've got larger questions, just always feel comfortable to ask. Housing is another thing that students have a lot of questions about. So for graduate students, there's no on-campus housing, which means that you need to live off-campus. And depending on if you've started your search or not, you might realize that a lot of housing in Canada is based on probably a 12-month lease, or potentially a 4-month lease based on the semesters. So when I did look on the off-campus housing website, there are a lot of rooms available from January to April, where you're probably subletting, maybe a student's on co-op or is just taking a break from their studies, or you might be looking to find a lease that's more of a 12-month lease. That is normal, like week-to-week or month-to-month leases are not common in Canada. Something that is important to keep in mind is that location can be really important. Hamilton is a fairly spread out city, and so, you know, some students find someplace cheap and they're like, oh, this is great, I'm going to save money, but you might be on a bus for an hour, or a few buses for an hour just to get to campus. So just keep that in mind. You know, if you find a place that you think you might be interested in signing a lease for, you could always use Google Maps and just use the public transit sort of route finder, and that will help navigate, or at least give you an estimate of time that it would take for you to get from your house to campus. When you do sign a lease, keep in mind that it is a legally binding contract, which means that if you sign on for a 12-month lease, and then if after a few weeks you're like, yeah, I don't really like this place, I'd rather move somewhere closer to campus, it can be very, very difficult or maybe even impossible to get out of that lease. Not saying this to scare you, but just so that you are aware that when you do decide to commit for a 4-month or an 8-month or a 12-month period, that really does mean that you are committed to that time. Of course, if something comes up and you know, it's an emergency and you need to leave, then there might be exceptions. But anytime you do sign a lease, that is a legally binding contract between you and the landlord. Another thing to be aware of are scams. So unfortunately, you know, probably like everywhere else in the world, there are people that are looking to scam others. And so some common scams with housing could be people showing you pictures of rooms, and you're like, oh, this looks really great, and you sign a lease, but the person who's showing you the pictures and the person you're giving money to, they don't actually own that property. So if you're ever in any doubt about, you know, what you are signing, we do have an off-campus housing office that can help you out. So one of the links down there, which is just macoffcampus.mcmaster.ca, you can go there and they've got lots of great resources for you. Depending on what your searching strategy is, some of you might already have a place, some of you might be coming here for sort of temporary accommodations. So, you know, you could always look at Airbnb or looking at hotels through the Tourism Hamilton website, you know, if you need a few days to get settled while you are searching for housing here. There are some other groups as well that you can look into. So there's a Facebook Mac Off Housing group where students will post rooms that are available. The IGSA, which is the International Graduate Student Association, also has postings. There's a program called Symbiosis, which is only available for grad students. This is where you are living with a senior in their home. Rent is usually maybe more affordable, but the idea is that you are living with that senior, so maybe you need to help out a little bit around the house, like, taking the garbage out once a week or something like that. So that's another option. Or if you are looking to do something more broad, not necessarily just student-specific housing, Kijiji is a very common website for students to use. Again, just be very mindful. If it is too good to be true, it probably is a scam. So again, we're not doing this to scare you, but every year we do have students that unfortunately send money electronically to somebody, and the money just kind of disappears. So just make sure that if you are committing to signing a lease and you are sending money to somebody, that you are doing so to a legitimate housing situation. Okay. So the other question that students often have is about banking. We can't recommend a bank. There's lots of different options for you. So what we've suggested are just sort of proximity to campus, what the closest options for you to be. There's an RBC, Royal Bank of Canada. They're located on campus in the athletic center. And then a short walk from campus, it's an area called Westdale. So you might hear people refer to Westdale or Westdale Village. And in Westdale, there's a CIBC, TD, Scotiabank, and a Pace Credit Union. So they're all about a 10-minute walk. Most people in Canada will use like plastic, so debit or credit cards as payment, but of course you can use cash. If you are using debit, just be mindful that depending on your bank, you might be limited to, let's say, 10 or 20 debit transactions per month that are free, and then you might have fees on top of it. So when you do sign up, to just get all of those details, and make sure when you are signing up that you do identify you are a student, because often if you can get a student account, then you will have less fees and restrictions on that bank. To sign up for a bank account, you need to bring your passport and study permit, as well as proof of address. So that could be a copy of your lease, or if you have any bills, they would just need something like that to prove that you are staying here. And you can get more information on educanada.ca, or McMaster has a money center, so you can get more information on money.mcmaster.ca. And then the other, probably most important question that a lot of students have is about cell phones. So cell phones are really, really expensive in Canada, unfortunately, and that can come as quite a bit of a shock. So just when you're sort of budgeting how much you need to sort of save, just be mindful that plans could be anywhere between $50 to even up to like $150 per month. And what is really expensive in Canada is data. Keep in mind that if you are going to be spending a lot of time on campus, that there is Wi-Fi everywhere on campus, so you can use that. 5G is not available, so depending on where you're coming from, again, our Wi-Fi, or sorry, not Wi-Fi, but our cellular network might be a little bit slower. You do have a couple of options. So if you are bringing your own phone, then you can just sort of pay month to month, or just sort of get a plan where you prepay. But some students do decide to buy a phone while you're here. And if you are buying a phone when you're here, just keep in mind that usually means you're going to be locked into a contract. And contracts are typically for 2 years, which means that you're paying a set fee every month for 2 years. And there's really no way out of that kind of a contract. There are lots of options available. Some of the ones with better coverage, so the big three is what we refer to it here. So Bell, Rogers, and TELUS, they might have the best coverage, but they might also be more expensive. Other plans that might have still good coverage, but maybe not as wide-reaching as Bell or Rogers. Freedom, Chat, Fido, Public Mobile, that there's lots of different options. So I would really just suggest for you to you know, do a little bit of research. You can do some research now before you get here. So when you do arrive, you kind of know where to go to get a phone plan. And all of these companies have stores in the mall, which is located in downtown Hamilton, called Jackson Square. So we're going to bring back Francesca to talk about School of Graduate Studies, but we do have a question here, which is, how safe is the city to walk around during the day or night? Are there any places or neighborhoods that should be avoided? So this is kind of a difficult question to answer. I mean, I think Hamilton is a fairly safe place, but again, depending on where you're coming from, you know, Hamilton's population is only 500,000. So for you, maybe that's a big city, but for some people, that's a really, really small town. And so, you know, when you're walking around in the evenings, it might not be as populated as what you're used to. So, you know, it is a good practice, you know, if you're walking around, you know, later at night, to be with a friend, to not be by yourself. Generally speaking, close to campus, there are a lot of students, and it is quite a safe neighborhood. If you do have questions specifically to like where you are living or where you think you might live, you could always connect with us in email, you know, the address and say, you know, this is where I'm thinking of staying. You know, is this, you know, a friendly neighborhood or a suitable neighborhood to live in? In Hamilton, that there's lots of different pockets, some that are really vibrant, others that are maybe a little bit quieter. So if you're not too sure, you know, you can always reach out to us. Yeah. Okay, great. And keep these questions coming. We're here to answer any questions that you might have. Okay, so next I think we're bringing back Francesca. Yep, there you are. Okay, great.
Okay, all right, thanks, Andrew. So right now we're going to talk a little bit about registration, about a couple of things that are more related to the School of Grad Studies. For instance, today is the last day to register on time. It is still 8:30 a.m. in Canada, so you have a couple of hours to do it if you haven't done so. Make sure you go into Mosaic. There you'll find all the information that you need. And late registration starts tomorrow. And I think it's open until January 2nd, late registration. Something to note, as a grad student, when you register, you should register for the winter and also for the summer term. So right now you would be registering for both to be considered completely enrolled. So just make sure you do that, and you must enroll in at least one course for each term that you're at McMaster. If you're not taking an academic course, then you should enroll in a placeholder course. And we can go to the next slide. Although you would be right now registering for both terms, your tuition, you would only need to pay tuition for the winter term by January 25th. And then there's another deadline for the spring-summer term, which is in May 25th. And all these dates are also in the Eyesynth app, and you can even set reminders if you'd like. If you have any questions about tuition, please refer to Student Services. There's the website. They would be very happy to help you. And thanks, Andrew. Now we can go to the next slide. And so it is very important for you to note that you won't receive an email and you won't receive a bill, an invoice, and nothing prompting you to pay for your tuition. You're responsible for knowing the deadlines and for going into your account and looking for your balance. So you can find this in Mosaic. And sometimes we get questions about what's the best way to pay for your tuition. This is handled by Student Services, and what they told us is that bank transfers seem to be the most convenient, secure, and recommended methods. You may be able to find all the information that you need in Mosaic and online in our website, specifically in the Student Accounts website. But if you do have any questions, please feel free to email them. And do this ahead of time, just in case it takes a couple of days to get an answer. We can move along. All right, so this is in relation to conditions clearing. So this is separate from registration and tuition. In your offer letter, you may have a condition to clear. Something, let's say, it may say that you need to submit results for an English test, the IELTS, for example. There may be something that's pending for your file. So it is very important. There are firm deadlines to submit this information, and your program office is the one that submits it for you to the School of Graduate Studies. So please make sure to review your offer letter, and if you have any conditions to clear, make sure to work very closely with your program office as soon as you come in so that they're able to submit this for you on a timely fashion. Again, there are firm deadlines for this, and if you won't be able to clear conditions within these deadlines, they need to ask to request for an extension from the School of Grad Studies. If this doesn't happen, you may risk your offer being rescinded. So please take this very seriously.
Okay, great. Thanks, Francesca. Before we move on to the next, we do have one question that I think kind of relates, and that is, what is a placeholder course? So I was hoping that maybe, Francesca, you could answer that for us.
Sorry, I was having trouble unmuting my mic. Okay, so yes. So in Mosaic, you will be able to see your courses, and you will also be able, your regular courses, and you'll also be able to see the placeholder course. What that means is that for you to be considered enrolled in the system, you need to appear somewhere. So if you're not taking a regular course, you register for the placeholder, and then you appear in our systems as enrolled, and then you're able to, you're able to complete your registration, you're able to pay tuition, etc. You will be able to see this. It will appear in Mosaic for you so that you can register for it. However, those courses, you don't attend classes. They're just there to secure your place so that we know you're a student here. And for instance, an example, if you're only doing research for a term, you need to somehow be registered, and that's what it does. That's what the placeholder does. Right now, it is very likely that you would be registering for the SGS 302 placeholder course if you're not taking any regular courses. But again, if you have any questions about that, I can always help you with that. So feel free to email me.
Okay, great, thanks. And I think, Francesca, we're going to continue with you, talk a little bit about working in Canada.
All right, working in Canada, that's a very popular question among our students. So some of you will be coming in to your grad programs, and you will be doing a TA. You will be a teaching assistant. You would know this by now if you're doing a TA. However, some of you may also be interested in working in maybe not being a TA, but doing other types of work while you're a student. If you are interested in working, you're always going to need a social insurance number. So it is encouraged that you, once you get here, if you think you're going to be interested, you get one. And there's no fee to apply, and what you need to bring is your passport and your study permit to get it. Anna organizes sometimes SIN days where you can get your SIN number here on campus. So you would be hearing from her about this. However, once you get to the airport, depending on the time that you get there, you may be able to get it at the airport. And then also sometimes students, you go to Service Canada locations, you can look it up in the internet, you can go and get it. Again, bring your passport and your study permit, and also Hamilton City Hall sometimes on Fridays is available for SIN numbers. In terms of your eligibility to work in Canada, you may find, once you look at your study permit, down there beneath, you will find information stating if you're eligible to work in Canada, and even the number of hours that you are. If this is not there, please refer to the Government of Canada website, and also you may refer to McMaster's International Student Services website, where Immigration and Mobility Advisor has included information about working in Canada and what you should be looking for and what you need to do if it is not stated in your study permit. What you need to do to get that in there so that you're able to work. Just make sure you always abide by the regulations. You know exactly how many hours you can work on campus and off campus, so that you can follow these regulations. Oh, and I also want to mention, I forgot, I'm sorry about the last slide. So in the International Student Services website, you will also find information specific to grad students, and it's going to be under immigration and under working in Canada. You'll find information there. You need to abide by immigration laws and regulations. However, there's also, in addition to that, if you're a grad student and you're receiving funding from certain scholarships, you may also need to follow a policy by the Ontario Council of Graduate Studies, which limits the number of hours also that you can work on campus per week and also per year. So keep this in mind and make sure to look for this information. If you have any questions, please come back to us and we can clarify. All right, getting paid, enrolling in direct deposit. Okay, so this information is specific to students that are gonna be teaching assistants. Okay, so since you're gonna be a teaching assistant, you will be receiving some funding from the School of Graduate Studies and, from HR, sorry for that. If you have a research scholarship, you will be receiving some funding from the School of Grad Studies. So you need to register in order to get your payment. And as soon as you register your information, you will be able to get to be paid directly. So there's no check. It will be here for you. It will go directly into your account. And you need to enroll in you may need to enroll in two different places. One is through Mosaic, through the Student Center, if you're getting a scholarship from the School of Grad Studies, and that you can do online, and you can do it as soon as you have a bank account. And the other one is paper-based, and it goes to the Human Resources Office. That's your TA payment. I've included a section, I think it's in the other slide, for a link to a package that was developed with clear instructions on how to register and enroll for direct deposit. Let me see, I also wanted to mention that your first TA payment or scholarship payment will be processed on January 17th. This is usually a common question, but you need to be enrolled by January 2nd. Your bank account needs to be there. If you're not able to open a bank account before then your first payment on January 17th will be here in the School of Graduate Studies. So you can come here and pick it up. It's in Gilmore Hall 212. And that's going to be for your research scholarship, and your TA check, teaching assistant check, will be at the Human Resources Services Office. Okay, so this is the link, and I will be sending, as soon as this webinar is captioned, we will be sending it out. It may take a couple of days, and along with that, I will be sending also all these links. And again, in this specific package, you will be able to find information on your pay schedule so you can organize your payment and your budget. It will also include information on understanding your funding, the steps to getting paid, and also where to direct your specific questions.
Okay, great. Thanks very much, Francesca. And I don't think there were any questions specific to working. Anna did type a link in the chat, so if people did want to go directly to the ISS website, you can see that link in the chat. So next, I'd like to reintroduce JC, who's going to talk a little bit about budgeting and the cost of living.
Okay, so if you don't know it by now, moving to Canada might be fairly expensive. There's a lot of cost, especially initial cost that you'll have to deal with. So there's a very helpful resource that is the expatistan.com website. So if you follow the link that is on the slide right now, it's really helpful to just know what costs what, pretty much. It's just like, it will tell you how much going to be to have a cell phone, living in Canada, living in Hamilton. So it's kind of useful. If you don't know what to expect, you can go on there, and it's pretty up to date, so you'll be able to kind of budget for it. So there are a couple of key points that I wanted to mention. So the first one is check your payment schedule. You don't want to pay your fees late, because there are interests that start to accrue, and I think they're pretty expensive. So just make sure you do your payment by the deadline so that you're safe and you don't pay extra money. And then there are a couple deals that you should take advantage of. So for example, for transit, for the Greyhound buses, the Presto buses, there are deals for Max students. So when you get your Presto card, make sure you tell them you're a Max student so that they're able to apply the discount on the card. Then there's a 5% discount at the Phoenix, which is the restaurant that is on campus. So you just need a GSA sticker that you can get from the GSA office, and then that will give you 5% discount. And then there are also a couple grocery stores that have discounts for us, and I think I'll go in more details. Yeah. So on Tuesdays, you have 10% discount at Fortino's and Metro and Food Basics. So it's pretty useful. That saves you a little bit of money. On Wednesday, there's a discount at the Bug Barn. There's one really close to campus. So at Bug Barn, you can buy a lot of stuff, but essentially you can buy a lot of grains and stuff for baking, for example, or just cooking. It's worth checking it out. On Thursdays, there's 20% discount at the Shoppers Drug Mart that is across campus. So that's very useful, and that's, a lot of us just take advantage of it, because 20% discount on your groceries. That's pretty interesting. For all of those discounts, if you want to get them, you need to bring your student ID, so don't forget it. If you want cheap produce, there's a store that is it's really close to campus. It's on 60 Ewan Road. The only thing is they only take cash, so just make sure you bring cash. They won't take your debit card or anything like that.
Okay, great. Thanks, JC. Okay, so next we're going to talk a little bit about your health and wellness. And so the first thing we wanted to mention is probably something maybe you've experienced in the past or you've heard of, which is culture shock, and just your general adjustment to life in Canada. So culture shock sort of occurs when you're experiencing being in an unfamiliar situation, when you're exposed to different lifestyles, different communication styles, and different attitudes. And culture shock's not something that's just, suddenly you're gonna wake up one day and be like, oh, I'm experiencing culture shock. It doesn't usually happen that way. It's usually more of a gradual process. And this is something that, you might feel initially when you first arrive, and then you might not feel anything for several weeks or several months, or it might not be something that you experience at all until maybe 6 months or 8 months while you're here. And some of the symptoms of culture shock is that you might feel really overwhelmed, you might suddenly feel really homesick, really, really irritable, really tired. I used to live in Korea, and I can remember specifically sometimes, because in the city I was in Korea, it was just so much more densely populated than it is here. And I just remember sometimes, waiting in line to get on a bus, and I was just feeling so surrounded by so many people. I was just kind of screaming inside. But that was just me sort of adjusting to my new lifestyle there. But you will get through it. And I think it is really important to remember that this is a normal reaction when you're in a new environment. So just sort of keep that in mind while you are here. It's also important to remember that, you know, moving to a new country is a huge, huge change in your life. And it's going to take some time to adapt to this new culture. If you're sort of experiencing some challenges, you know, it's good to just, you know, share what's going on with friends, with lab mates, with other international students, because, you know, most international students have gone or are going through some form of adjustment or culture shock. You can also come and speak with me anytime you're just feeling a little bit overwhelmed or you're not too sure what to do. And we also have a student wellness center. So that's if, you know, you really would like to talk to somebody, if you're feeling really, really stressed, overwhelmed, and you're not necessarily sure what you should be doing in those situations, that they can suggest some different coping strategies. We have lots of different events and activities where you can come out and meet other international students. And we always just like to remind you that it is really important for you to be mindful of your health and well-being. As a grad student, I know some of you are going to put a lot of pressure on yourselves to, you know, be the best in your field and to do an excellent job in your studies and in your research. But just also be aware that, you know, you have to take care of yourself too, that if you are spending, you know, 20 hours on school and 4 hours sleeping and you have no social breaks and you're not eating well, that's not going to be a recipe for long-term success. So at McMaster, you know, your well-being is really important to us. And so just make sure that you do have a good balance of academics, social, personal time, and know that we are here to support you if you're ever feeling overwhelmed. And so next, we're going to talk about health insurance, which I think is a nice segue. So we're going to invite Anna back.
Hi, everyone. So we'll talk a little bit about the UHIP plan. So UHIP stands for the University Health Insurance Plan, and it is mandatory for all students who attend McMaster. So that's all undergrads, grads, visiting students, and exchange students, and also their dependents. Dependents in this term means a spouse, a common law, or also your children. So you were automatically enrolled into UHIP. You don't need to do anything to activate your UHIP. Your UHIP is basically activated once you are registered and you are a student who is registered in units. So again, when Francesca was talking about that placeholder course, this is also very important for UHIP, because if you're not registered in anything, like no courses and no placeholder course, then your UHIP will never get active because the system doesn't know that you're actually here and doing something. So it's very important that you are registered somewhere in the system so you can be picked up for UHIP. The one thing that you have to do is you do have to enroll your dependents with me. It's not, you can't go online and enroll them. There are certain things that I need to see, certain documents. So you'll have to actually come and see me for that. Dependents cannot be added in the future. Things happen, flights might get delayed, flights might get canceled. So you could only add your dependents once they're physically in Ontario with you. With that said, there's also a time limit to add your dependents. So with UHIP, everything is very time sensitive. So please be aware of that. So you have 30 days from the day that your dependents arrive in Ontario for you to come see me to add them. If you do pass those 30 days, even if it is just by 1 day, you will be charged $500 for every dependent that you add that is late. So please, please avoid that penalty. I don't want to give it to you, so please avoid it. Some more information on dependents. So to come and see me, you can either book an appointment with me on Oscar Plus. So Oscar Plus is something that you will be hearing constantly. It's basically like a platform where you go and you can register for events and you can register for appointments with me and Andrew, and also with the Immigration and Mobility Advisor. So please be familiar with that website. Just a note, it's actually down right now because it's going through like a revamp. It's going to be a new little platform coming out, and it should be back live on the 16th if all goes well. So right now you won't be able to log on to see what it looks like, but it's on oscarplusmcmaster.ca. And like I said, on there you'll be able to register for all the events that we do, and also you'll be able to book appointments. And then another way to come and see me is also through our drop-ins. And when I say me, I also mean me, Andrew, or the immigration consultant. On Wednesdays, we all have drop-ins from 1:30 to 4, and you do not need an appointment for that. You basically come to the office, you write your name down on a piece of paper, first come, first serve, and we go through as many people as we can on those Wednesdays. To all appointments, always bring your student card anywhere you go. But to add the dependents especially, you have to bring your student card, the dependent's passport, and also their flight itinerary. So I will need to see those 3 things from you when you're adding dependents. So the UHIP runs from September 1st until August 31st of any given year. This is very, very important, especially for you who are starting in January. The system does not know that you are starting in January. It just sees that you were registered, and because UHIP is a 12-month policy, so you're covered for 12 months, it will enroll you from September 1st to August 31st. Please do not think that you're being enrolled from 12 months, meaning January 1st to December 1st. That is not the case. So for all January starts, you will have to come see me, either again through booking an appointment or through the drop-in. You'll have to bring your student card and you'll have to bring your offer letter from McMaster. So once I get those 2, I will be able to change your UHIP coverage, and it will start from January 1st and it will end August 31st. In September, it's a new academic year that we will be starting. You will be registering again for classes, and then at that time, you will be registered from September 1st until August 31st. So the only little tricky part is right now, because you're starting in January. So I will have to make those manual adjustments. The second part here, this kind of relates to August, but I can give you an example for now at this time. So the earliest that you can be covered under the UHIP plan would be December 10th. So if you arrive before December 10th, please have some kind of travel insurance or some kind of insurance to protect you while you're here. As of December 10th, you are covered. You will not have proof of this coverage. This means that I can't give you anything right now because the plan actually only starts for you January 1st. But as like a favor or whatnot that Sun Life will do for you is they know that our students arrive earlier because they might be looking for somewhere to stay, or they might be getting settled in. So if you have to go to a doctor, you'll be paying out of pocket. Keep all your receipts, and once January 1st happens, you can come see me and I can walk you through how to submit a claim so you can get that money back. It is important that you do keep all the receipts because you have to provide them to get your money back on the claim. So UHIP costs $636. That's for 12 months. So it's basically $53 a person per month. You cannot purchase a per month type plan. You're basically charged one time. So many of you will probably already see in your tuition, you'll see a line there that says UHIP $636. Again, that will be there until you come see me so we can adjust it. And for this term, you'll actually be paying $424 for 8 months. If you have a dependent, please, that price will go up once I change it. Just a note on that, after having 3 people on the plan, so let's say you, a spouse, and 1 child, anyone else that we add to that plan, there's no additional cost. So if you have 2 children or 3 children, you only pay for the first 3 members. The other members are covered as well, but there is no additional cost. Again, for the exceptions there, that the only people who don't pay for 12 months are our exchange students who come in for 4 or 8 months, our visiting students who basically come in and out at any time, and now you guys in January, because you're starting in January, so that will have to be manually adjusted to only an 8-month coverage period for this time. Aside from that, everyone else is covered for 12 months always. How do you receive your UHIP card? Very easy. You don't need to do anything once again. Once I enroll you into the Sun Life, so Sun Life is the insurance company that administers the UHIP plan. So once I enroll you into Sun Life, you will receive an email from Sun Life to your McMaster email. It is very, very important that your McMaster email is active and it is not being forwarded to another email. Your UHIP card has no photo ID. So that is a security feature that has been placed by Sun Life, that it will only allow for your UHIP card to be delivered to a McMaster email. Like I said, if your McMaster email is being forwarded to another email, that email will not be forwarded. You will be lost and you will not get that UHIP card. So for the beginning of January, I would strongly advise to make sure that first your McMaster email is active, and do not forward it. After that, you can forward it all you want, but just remember every time it's time to receive your new UHIP card, unforward that email so you can get your UHIP card. Always make sure you carry your UHIP card with you. It is very important because we do not know when there will be an emergency, and you do not want to go to a hospital, not have a UHIP card, and then you get the bill as soon as you leave. So just to facilitate things, just always carry it in your pocket. It's just a printout. It's not a real like hard card. It's just a piece of paper that you cut and you put it in your wallet. There is a list of pre-approved plans. So if you belong to that list and you have proof, so for example, if you're coming from Saudi Arabia, there is a plan that's been pre-approved that you'll be exempt from UHIP, or if you're Libyan sponsored, or if at any time you become eligible for the OHIP plan, which is the Ontario Health Insurance Plan. If any of these things happen, it is your responsibility to make sure you come and let me know. I have no way of knowing if anything changes in your status while you're here. It is your responsibility to come and make sure that I am up to date, so that if you don't need UHIP, that we remove you from the plan. There's no such thing as having double coverage. You can't have two coverages. It's kind of illegal. You have to have one. So there's no point in paying for a plan that you can't use because you are covered under a different plan that's been exempt. If you have a travel plan, most likely it will be denied. It's very specific on the plans that have been pre-approved. So you can always look at our website and you can get more information to see if you're pre-approved or not. But most likely no, it's just the government-sponsored plans that are pre-approved. So you can get more information, like I said, on the ISS webpage. And also watch for my emails. You will start getting emails in January with some information, just as reminders. So please make sure you watch for those. Also in January, there will be workshops on UHIP. So I also invite the GSA, which I'll tell you what that is in a little bit. It's also another supplementary health and dental plan that you have. So with the GSA and me, we do a workshop. So we can go over the plan a little bit more in detail. And then you will get information on both plans, and you can kind of compare them and see who covers what. So if you get sick, what happens? I'm very reluctant to say call 911. If it is an emergency, please do call 911. If you can get yourself to a walk-in clinic or an urgent care, do that as well. Hospitals should be left for emergencies, life-threatening emergencies only. I say that because if you go there with a stomach ache, you will be waiting for hours. It is for life-threatening emergencies. So please, again, once you come to the workshop, I'll explain this a little bit more, but there are walk-in clinics, there are urgent care centers that you can go to. Also, there is the student wellness here on campus. So grad students are able to make an appointment there. MBA students are not. So it is for grad students and undergrad students. You are able to make an appointment at the Student Wellness Center, and you can be seen by a doctor here on campus. After hours, walk-in clinics or urgent cares, they do close at 9 p.m. So if you are really not feeling well after that time, and I mean, you know your body best. If you know that you're not feeling well, do take yourself to a hospital, get yourself checked out. All of this is covered by UHIP. If you're not sure if something is covered by UHIP, if you need to have the surgery and you're just not sure if it's covered or not, please send me an email. I will look into that for you, and like this, there are no surprises at the end. If you require specialized care, for example, if you need to see a specialist, you have to first see a doctor. You can't book yourself in to do things like ultrasounds or blood work or any of that, or see a specialist. You have to it has to be referred. It works on referrals. So first you have to see a regular physician, and then they will decide with you what to do or where to send you. So again, if you go to a walk-in clinic, for instance, and they say that you need to have an x-ray done or an MRI or whatever, they will refer you. You cannot choose to do that on your own. So anywhere that there is a physician, walk-in clinic, urgent care, student wellness, they will be able to refer you to get anything else done that is needed. Who pays for what? So the UHIP card or the UHIP plan actually pays for things like surgeries, hospitals, walk-in clinics, blood work, any type of like MRI, CAT scan, any of those type things. And there are things that it does not pay for. This is where the GSA will come in. So it doesn't pay for prescription medication, it doesn't pay for dental, for vision, massage therapy, et cetera, et cetera. Those expenses would be covered for you under the GSA. If you are a TA, your dental plan moves over to QP, but your health still stays in GSA. So there are 2 plans and maybe even 3 plans for you. So like I said, it does get complicated. So do come into those workshops so you can see kind of all the plans all together, and then it'll be a little bit better to see what you have and who covers what.
Okay, great. Thanks, Anna. So we do have maybe one question. I think you sort of covered it, but so where could they find more information on UHIP? So I did post in the chat a link to the ISS healthcare website. So I'd encourage you to connect on that. And I think you also touched on this. So if you can schedule an appointment with an ophthalmologist, again, can you just reiterate that the process would be you'd have to see a walk-in or someone at the wellness center first before
That's right.
Specialist.
Yeah. So you can't book a specialist on your own or to do any exams. You have to be referred. Everything works on referral. So you first have to go see a regular physician or a doctor, either, like I said, either this at the student wellness or through the walk-in or through the urgent cares. You have to first see a physician. They then will decide if they're going to refer you and to who they're going to refer you to. You cannot basically decide that you want to do something on your own. It has to be referred by a physician.
Okay, great. And then there is another question, but I think it might be more of just more of a one-off. So I'm just going to let you type out that answer.
Okay.
Okay, great. Thanks, Anna. Okay, so next we're going to invite back JC, who's going to talk a little bit about some of the community resources that are available for you.
Okay, so we've been talking a lot about QP, GSA, SGS. That might be a little bit confusing with all those acronyms. So I'm going to try to just give you tell you what is available on campus. There's a lot available, and you just need to know it's here so that you can actually go and talk to them. So the first thing I want to mention is the department you'll be in. They're the closest people, and they're really a day-to-day interaction. So get to know your grad admins, the secretaries, the supervisors, the lab managers, because they'll be here to help you every day. You'll see those people really regularly. So if you know them well, you can ask questions. It's really helpful to know your department. Then there is the School of Grad Studies. They are a central administration. They really encompass the whole, like the 6 different faculties. They deal with admission, graduation, PhD defenses. So, I mean, you will have to interact with them. Francesca is part of them. She's here to help you, the grad students. So please feel free to reach out to them and Francesca if you need help. Then there's the Grad Student Association. So it's a student association. It's run by students and for the students. They deal with a lot of things, again, health and dental coverage, as Anna mentioned before. The sport leagues, they are the managers for, they take care of the Phoenix restaurant. They have grad clubs. So again, it's know where they are, and they're really helpful if you want to get involved. It's really cool to just talk to these people. Then there is QP 3906. So that's a union for TAs. So if you are a TA, then you'll be protected under their collective agreement, and they provide you with a different dental plan. There's a little bit that covers a little bit more, I think. They do advocacy. They have an international officer. So again, know where they're located so that if you need help for things that are related to TA-ship, then just go to them. Then on campus, there's also the International Student Services that Anna and Andrew are part of. So they organize a lot of events. They have an immigration mobility advisor. So they have a lot of resource. There's just a lot of resources that are available on campus, and especially ISS has a lot for international students. So please make sure you introduce yourself to them and go and talk to them if you need to. Then in terms of student associations, there are also the IGSA. So I'm one of the co-president for the International Graduate Student Association. We run events, so social events, because we know international students need to be able to talk to other international students, and we want you to meet more people. So we run social events, but we also try to do more informational sessions. So for example, we have an immigration seminar. There's a lawyer that comes on campus. She explains how to get, the different ways you could get permanent residence if you want to stay in Canada later. So that's pretty useful. So please reach out to us. check out your emails. You'll get emails from us for different events. If you're in engineering, there's EGS. It's a very big student association, and they organize a lot of events. They have a lot of workshops. So again, if you're in engineering, that can be relevant to you. SciGSA is the equivalent for science students. They have a lot of events. And again, check out their website. It's really useful if you want to connect with the people in your faculty, for example. And then there's also the African Caribbean Grad Student Association. So if you're from that area, it's a really cool way to connect with people. There's one of the student that is in the association is also part of AGSS. So we have a really close, we talk a lot with that association. And then off campus, there is Global Hamilton Connect. So again, they try to help international students and just people that come from abroad. So if you want to be involved and help outside of campus, that's an association you should just definitely check out. Also, if you are parents, there is what's called the Grad Parent Network. So if you have children, if you have parenting responsibilities, it could be very useful for you to join the Grad Parent Network to meet and connect with other grad students that have families. I know every year they have specific events for parents that are part of that network. Then the other thing I wanted to mention is that there's a lot of resources on the SGS website about supervisory relationship with your supervisor. So if you think about it, your supervisor, you'll interact with them anywhere from 1 year if you're a course-based master's, maybe 2 years if you're a master's, and up to 6 years or more if you do master's plus PhD. So I think it's extremely important to start off your relationship with your supervisor with a good start. So it might be very useful to just read that information, make sure everything goes well with your supervisor, and if it does not go well, try to fix it as soon as you can. Because it's great to have a great supervisor, but it can also be very bad if it does not work with your supervisor, and you really need to work on that relationship so that you have a good time when you come to work. And then I think that's the final point I want to mention. Their motto is the McMaster Office for Development of Language Learners. It's a free service that is here to help undergrads and graduate students who may be struggling with English language. So we all experienced that. When I first came here, I was not confident in English, and I was scared. I was scared of not being understood. I was scared of, TAing to English speakers when English was not my first language. So sometimes they have workshops I took part in one of them, and it's really, really good to go to those workshops because you learn things that are very useful in English. The way my education worked in English was really based on rules and grammar and all that stuff. When you realize when you come here, you just need to talk and be able to write, be able to talk and communicate. So I think their workshops are really based on that, and it's a really useful resource on campus that you should definitely take advantage of. Oh, and then now, so that was not the last one. So there's a lot of events that are organized throughout the year by SGS, GSA, IGSA, and the International Student Service Offices. So the way we usually work is that we send out emails. So SGS will send out a weekly email with all their events. So it's definitely useful to just check what's available. And sometimes in there will be things that are specific towards international students. So make sure you check your emails so that you know what's going on campus. I really encourage you to go to social events. You will meet new people and returning students. So for example, if you come in January, you will meet people that have been here for either a long time or just in September, but they will have good tips for you. So try to come out in January. There will be events for you to come. I know, for example, we have one. IGSA will have an event middle of January. We still need to sort the details, but you'll get an email soon. I'm sure SGS will have events, ISS as well. So please look out for emails and try to sign up as soon as you can so that you come here, you meet us, and you meet other students. And I think this is just the best way to start in January for you.
Okay, great. Thanks so much, JC. And this sort of concludes the official part of our webinar. So we do really thank you for coming out and listening. And I hope that this was really valuable for you. But this isn't the end, of our relationship. This is really just the start. And so I would really encourage you to reach out to us, ask as many questions as you have, because it's a lot easier just to ask questions and get those answers than to, sort of be unsure along the way.